Meanwhile, we'll start our reading. I will read first two paragraphs, then Dhruv Prabhu can read, then Saurabh Kale Prabhu can read. Once upon a time, Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the bestower of all knowledge to all living entities, from Brahma to the insignificant ant, was sitting in the bedroom of Rukmiṇī, who was engaged in service of the Lord along with her assistant maidservants. Krishna was sitting on the bedstead of Rukmiṇī, and the maidservants were engaged in fanning him with chamaras, yak tail fly whisks. Lord Krishna's dealing with Rukmiṇī as a perfect husband is a perfect manifestation of supreme perfection of the personality of Godhead. Truth. There are many philosophers who propound a concept of absolute truth in which God cannot do this or that. They deny the incarnation of the God or the supreme absolute truth in human form. But actually, the fact is different. God cannot be subjected to our imperfect sensual activities. He is the all powerful, omnipresent personality of Godhead, and by his supreme will, he can not only create, maintain, and annihilate the whole cosmic manifestation, but he can also descend as an ordinary human being in order to execute the highest mission. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, whenever there are discrepancies in the discharge of human occupational duties, he descends. He is not forced to appear by any external agency, but descends by his own internal potency in order to reestablish the standard functions of human activities as well as to simultaneously annihilate the disturbing elements in the progressive march of human civilization. In accordance with this principle of transcendental pastimes of Supreme Personality of Godhead, he descended in his eternal form of Śrī Kṛṣṇa in the dynasty of the Yadus. The palace of Rukmiṇī was wonderfully finished. There were many canopies hanging on the ceiling with laces bedecked with pearl garlands, and the whole palace was illuminated by the effulgence of valuable jewels. There were many flower orchards of baela and cāmeli, which are considered to be the most fragrant flowers in India. There were many clusters of these plants with blooming flowers, enhancing the beauty of the palace. And because of the exquisite fragrance of the flowers, little groups of humming bees were gathered around the trees, and at night, the pleasing moonshine glittered through the network of holes in the windows. There were many heavily flowered trees of pārijāta, and the mild wind stirred the flavor of the flowers of all around. Within the walls of the palace, there was incense burning, and the fragrant smoke was leaking out of the window shutters. Within the room, there were mattresses covered with white bedsheets resembling the foam of a milk. The bedding was as soft and white as milk foam. In this situation, Lord Sri Krishna was very comfortably sitting and enjoying the service of Rukmiṇījī, assisted by her maidservants. So here the description of Rukmani's palace and kingdom, I mean Rukmani's bedroom is mentioned here along with the garden which was there in Rukmani's palace. And Rukmani was Krishna's most favorite queen in Dwarka Dham. So the chapter entitled is Talks Between Krishna and Rukmani. So we'll see further. Dhruv Prabhu, you can read next two paragraphs.
Rukmani was Hare Krishna. प्रभु आवाज आ रहा है?
थोड़ा कम आ रहा है, वॉल्यूम बढ़ा सकते हैं?
अभी आ रहा है?
Yes, better.
Rukmani was also very eager to get the opportunity of serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead as her husband. She therefore wanted to serve the Lord personally and took the handle of chamara from the hand of maidservant and began to move the fan. The handle of the chamara was made of gold, decorated and bedecked with valuable jewels, and it became more beautiful when it was taken by Rukmini, because all of her fingers were beautifully set with jeweled rings. Her legs were all decorated with ankle bells and jewels, which rang very softly between the pleats of her sari. Rukmini raised breast were smeared with kumkuma and saffron. Thus her beauty was impressed by reflection of reddish color emanating from her covered breast. The highly raised lower part of her buttocks were decorated with jewels lace girdle, and a locket of a great effulgence hung on her neck. Above all, because she was engaged in the service of the Lord Krishna, although at that time she was engaged in the service of Lord Krishna, although at that time she was old enough to To have grown up since her beautiful body was beyond compare in three worlds. When we take account of her beautiful face, it appears the that the curlings or hair on her head, the beautiful earrings on her ears, her smiling mouth, and her necklace of gold all combined to show rains of nectar, and it was definitely proved that Rukmani was none other than the original goddess of fortune, who is always engaged in the service of lotus feet of Narayana. The pastime of Krishna and Rukmani in Dwarka are accepted by great authorities as manifestation of those of Narayana and Lakshmi, which are an exalted opulence. The pastime of Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan are simple and rural, distinguished from the polished urban characteristics of those of Dwarka. The characteristics of Rukmini were unusually bright, and Krishna was very much satisfied with her behavior.
Yeah, read one more.
Krishna had Krishna had experienced that when Rukmani was offered a pārijāta flower by Narad Muni, Satyabhama had become envious of her co-wife and had immediately demanded a similar flower from Krishna. In fact, she could not be pacified until she was promised the whole tree. That was actually done by Krishna. The tree was brought down to the earth planet from the heavenly kingdom. After this episode, Krishna expected that because Satyamama had been rewarded by full tree of Parijata, Rukmani would also demand something. Rukmani did not mention anything of the incident. However, for she was grave and simply satisfied in her service. Krishna wanted to see her a bit irritated, and therefore he schemed in order to see the beautiful face of Rukmani in an irritated condition. Although Krishna had more than 16,100 wives, he used to behave with each of them with familial affection. He would create a particular situation between himself and his wife in which the wife would criticize him in irritation of love, and Krishna would enjoy this. In this case, because Krishna could not find any fault with Rukmani, for she was very great and always engaged in his service, he smilingly in great love began to speak to her. Rukmini was the daughter of King Bhishmaka, a powerful king. Thus, Krishna did not address her as Rukmini. He addressed her time as princess, my dear princess. It is very surprising. Many great personalities in the royal order wanted to marry you, although not all of them were kings. All possessed the opulence and riches of the kingly order. They were well behaved, learned, famous, among kings, beautiful in their bodily features and personal qualifications, liberal, very powerful in strength, and advanced in every respect. They were not unfit in any way, and over and above that, your father and your brother had no objection to such marriages. On the contrary, they gave their word of honor that you would be married with Shishupal. The marriage was sanctioned by your parents. Shishupal was great king and was so lusty and mad after your beauty that if he had married you, I think he would always have remained with you just like your faithful servant.
Remained with you. So here Krishna is giving kutark. Kutark means um, bad bad argument. कुतर्क होता है ना, जैसे हम लोग तर्क वितर्क करते हैं. So he is basically wants to irritate Mother Rukmini. So Krishna is trying to speak in an indirect way so that she will get upset with Krishna. So that's why Krishna is telling, now you will see what all things Krishna will speak. So first thing Krishna is telling that, Arey, your marriage was arranged with Shishupal. He was such a great king, and he would have remained your faithful servant whole life. Still, you chose to marry me. You have done a big mistake. Like this, Krishna will start telling so many things so that Rukmini can become upset with Krishna. Okay, thank you. Next, Saurabh Prabhu can read next 2 3 paragraphs. Saurabh Prabhu got dropped off. Aditya Prabhu, you can read. Aditya Prabhu's voice is not coming.
Comparison to Shishupala
Yeah,
with
now
his
I now
personal qualities, I am
yeah.
nothing. Yes, Prabhuji, I was muted actually. In
No
comparison to
worries.
Shishupal with
Go
his
ahead.
personal qualities, I am nothing. And you may personally realize it. I'm surprised that you rejected the marriage with Shishupal and accepted me, who am who am inferior in comparison to Shishupala. I think myself completely unfit to be your husband because you are so beautiful, sober, grave, and exalted. May I inquire from you the reason that induced you to accept me? Now, of course, I can address you as my beautiful wife, but still, I may inform you of my actual position that I am inferior to all those princes who wanted to marry you. First of all, you may know that I was so much afraid of Jarasandh that I could not dare to live on the land, and thus I have constructed this house within the water of the sea. It is not my business to disclose this secret to others, but you must know that I am not very heroic. I am a coward, and I am afraid of them. Still, I am not safe, because all the great kings of land are inimical to me. I have personally created this inimical feeling by fighting with them in many ways. Another fault is that although I am on the throne of Dwarika, I have no immediate claim. Although I got a kingdom by killing my maternal uncle Kamsa, the kingdom was to go to my grandfather. So actually, I have no possession of a kingdom. Besides that, I have no fixed aim on life. People cannot understand me very well. What is the ultimate goal of my life? They know very well that I was a cowherd boy in Vrindavan. People expected that I would follow the footsteps of my foster father, Nanda Maharaj, and be faithful to Srimati Radharani and all her friends in the village of Vrindavan. But all of a sudden I left them. I wanted to become a famous prince. Still, I could not have any kingdom, nor could I rule as a prince. People are bewildered about my ultimate goal of life. They do not know whether I am a cowherd boy or a prince, whether I am the son of Nanda Maharaj or the son of Vasudeva. Because I have no fixed aim in life, people may call me a vagabond. Therefore, I am surprised that you could select such a vagabond husband.
Thank you. So the arguments continues, and Krishna is telling that I am fearful of all these kings and enemies. I am living under the water, and also I don't have any claim over Dwarka because the whole kingdom belongs to my grandfather Ugrasena. And again, I left Vrindavan. I ditched my foster father and Srimati Radharani and came here. So people cannot understand my ultimate goal of life. Like that, Krishna is trying to provoke Rukmiṇī Maiya so that she can get angry with Krishna. Okay, next. Prashant Prabhu can read next two paragraphs and then Sahil Prabhu can read. Yes, Prashant Prabhu, go ahead.
I cannot please all of them at as a Polish husband. My behavior with them is not very nice, and I knew you are very much conscious of it. I sometimes create a situation with my wives which is not very happy because I was trained in a village in my childhood. I am not well acquainted with the etiquette of urban life. I do not know the way to please a wife which with nice words and behavior. And from practical experience, it is found that any woman who follows my way or who become attached to me is ultimately left to cry for the rest of her life. In Vrindavan, many gopis were attached to me, and now I have left them, and they are leaving, but are simply crying for me in separation. I have heard from Akrur and Uddhav that since I left Vrindavan, all my cowherd boyfriends and the gopis and Radharani and my foster father Nand Maharaj are simply crying constantly for me. I have left Vrindavan for good and am now engaged and now engaged with the queens in Dwarka. But I am not well behaved with any of you. So you can very easily understand that I have no steadiness of character. I am not a very reliable husband. The net result of being attached to me is to acquire a life of bewilderment only. My dear beautiful princess, you may also know that I am always penniless just after my birth. I was carried penniless to the house of Nan Maharaj and I was raised just like cowherd boy. Although my foster father possessed many hundreds of thousands of cows, I was not proprietor of even one of them. I was simply entrusted of to take care of them and tender them, but I was not the proprietor. Here also, I am not proprietor of anything, but I am always penniless. There is no cause to lament for such a wellness condition. I possessed nothing in the past, so why should I lament that I do not possess anything at present? You may note also that my devotees are not very opulent persons. They also are very poor in worldly goods. Those who are very rich, possessing worldly wealth, are not interested in devotion of me or Krishna consciousness. On the contrary, when a person becomes penniless, whether by force or by circumstances, he may become interested in me. If he get the proper opportunity, persons who are proud of their riches, even if they are offered association with my devotees, do not take advantage of consciousness of me. In other words, the poorer class of men may have some interest in me, but the richer class of men have no interest. I think, therefore, that your selection of me was not very intelligent. You appear to be very intelligent, trained by your father and brother, but ultimately you have made a great mistake in selecting your life's companion.
Thank you. So it's very clear to understand that how Krishna is using indirect way of speaking so that Rukmini Maya can get upset with him. Yes, Sahil Prabhu can read next two paragraphs.
Okay, Vibhushan. But there is no harm. It is better late than never. You are at liberty to select a suitable husband who is actually an equal to you in opulence, family tradition, wealthy, wealth, beauty, education in all respects. Whatever mistakes you may have made may be forgotten. Now you may chalk out your own lucrative path of life. Usually, a person does not establish a marital relationship with a person who is either higher or lower than his position. My dear daughter of the king of Vidarbha, I think you did not consider very sagaciously before your marriage. Thus, you made a wrong selection by choosing me as your husband. You mistakenly heard about my having very exalted character, although factually I was nothing more than a beggar. Without seeing me and my actual position, simply by hearing about me, you selected me as your husband. That was not very rightly done. Therefore, I advise you that it is better late than never. You can now select one of the great Kshatriya princes and accept him as your life's companion, and you can reject me. Krishna was proposing that Rukmini divorce him at a time when Rukmini already had many grown up children. Therefore, Krishna's whole proposition to Rukmini appeared to be something unexpected. because according to Vedic culture, there was no such thing as separation of husband and wife by divorce, nor was it possible for Rukmini to do so in advanced age, when she had many married sons. Each and every one of Krishna's proposals appeared to Rukmini to be crazy, and she was surprised that Krishna could say such things uh, simply as she was. Her anxiety was increasing more and more at the thought of separation from Krishna.
Simple as she was. So,
Simple as she was.
yeah, okay, no issues. Thank you. So here, Prabhupada is mentioning that Rukmini Maya was very, very surprised. How come Krishna is speaking such words suddenly in the midst of nothing? And he is asking Rukmini Devi to divorce him and marry some other husband, some other Kshatriya king who is more suitable for her match. So like that, back and forth, Krishna is giving lot of arguments to provoke Rukmini Maya. Okay, we have 5 more minutes, so I will read next two paragraphs. Krishna continued, after all, you have to prepare yourself for your next life. I therefore advise that you select someone who can help you both in this life and the next life, for I am completely unable to help you. My dear beautiful princess, you know that all the members of the princely order, including Shishupal, Shalva, Jarasandha, Dantavakra, and even your elder brother Rukmi, are all my enemies. They do not like me at all. They hate me from the core of their hearts. All these princes were very much puffed up with their worldly possessions, and they did not care a fig for anyone who came before them. In order to teach them some lessons, I agreed to kidnap you according to your desire. Otherwise, I actually have no love for you, although you loved me even before the marriage. As I have already explained, and I am not very much interested in family life or love between husband and wife. By nature, I am not very fond of family life, wife, children, home, and opulences. As my devotees are always neglectful of all the worldly possessions, I am also like that. Actually, I am interested in self realization. That gives me pleasure, and not this family life. After submitting his statement, Lord Krishna suddenly stopped. The great authority Shukdev Goswami remarks that Krishna almost always passed his time with Rukmini, and Rukmini was a bit proud to be so fortunate that Krishna never left her even for a moment. Krishna, however, does not like any of his devotees to be proud. As soon as a devotee becomes so, by some tactic, he cuts down that pride. In this case also, Krishna said many things which were hard for Rukmini to hear. She could only conclude that although she was proud of her position, Krishna could be separated from her at any moment. Oh, amazing. So Prabhupada is telling here that Krishna d- detected some pride in Rukmini, that she is feeling that Krishna is always with me in my palace. To crush down this pride or to make it powder, Krishna started speaking like this. Amazing. Prabhupada is giving the secret why Krishna is speaking in this way. And as soon as devotee becomes so, by some tactic, Krishna cuts down that pride. And in this way, by speaking these words, Krishna crushed the pride of Mother Rukmini. We'll see these pastimes again and again happening in Krishna Lila with gopis, with Sudama, with Indradev, with Brahmaji, with so many characters. Wherever there is pride, Krishna will ensure that the pride is made powder, made chutney out of it. So it's amazing. Krishna cannot tolerate a tinge of pride also in devotees. Okay, we have couple of more minutes. Yeah, Dhruv Prabhu, you can read next two paragraphs and we'll stop for today.
Hare Krishna. Rukmini was conscious that her husband was not an ordinary human being. He was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the master of three worlds. By the way he was speaking, she was afraid of being separated from the Lord, for she had never heard such harsh words from Krishna before. Thus, she became perplexed with the fear of separation, and her heart began to palpitate without replying to a word of Krishna's statement. She simply cried in great anxiety, as if being drowned in an ocean of grief. She silently scratched the ground with the nails of her toes, which were reflecting reddish light on the ground. The tears from her eyes were pink, mixed with a black cosmetic ointment from her eyelids, and the water were dropping down, washing the kumkum and saffron from her breast. Uh, Choked up on account of great anxiety, unable to speak even a word, she kept her head downward and remained standing just like a stick. Due to extremely painful fearfulness and lamentation, she lost all her reasoning powers and became so weak that immediately her body lost so much weight that bangles on her wrist became slackened. The cha- chamara's rod with, with which she was serving Krishna immediately fell from her hand. Her brain and memory became puzzled and she lost consciousness. That nicely combed hair on her head scratched here and there, and she fell down straight like a banana tree cut down by a whirlwind.
Last paragraph.
Lord Krishna immediately realized that Rukmini had not taken his words in joking spirit. She had taken them very seriously. In her extreme anxiety over immediate separation from him, she had fallen into this condition. Lord Shri Krishna is naturally very affectionate toward his devotees, and seeing Rukmini's condition, his heart immediately became softened. At once, he became merciful to her. The relationship between Krishna and Rukmini was as Lakshmi Narayan. Therefore, he appeared before her in his four-handed manifestation of Narayana. He got down from bedstead, brought her up by her hands, and placed his cooling hands on her face, smoothed the scattered hair on her head. Lord Krishna dried wet breast of Rukmini with his hands. Understanding seriousness of Rukmini's love for him, he embraced her to his chest.
Yes. So when Rukmini Maya fell unconscious after hearing such words from Krishna, Lord Krishna appeared in the form of Narayan, Chaturbhuj Narayan, because actually Rukmini is Mahalakshmi and Krishna is Narayan, Mahavishnu. So he appeared as Narayana and he solaced her. So the remaining pastime we'll read